Buddies, yo! Hey, it's Concert Buddy. Back in the building with another standalone YouTube video. I know it's been a hot minute since I've done one of these. I appreciate you watching. You've been watching the podcast stuff. Thank you. More on that another time. But this time, talking about recapping my experiences, my point of view at the Austin Record Convention. Been there a couple times before, but I've never been to the spring show. So what did I think about the spring show versus the fall shows I've been to? What did I pick up? What kind of extracurriculars were going on? All that, the poo-poo platter. Coming up next, let's go. Now, buddies, the thing about the Austin Record Convention, one, it's arguably my favorite record convention each year. And I've gone the last couple of years, but the fall session only. There's a spring session that usually takes place in April, late April, early May. And then there's the fall variety that takes place late September, early October. And up to this point, I've been, I think, three times to the fall show. I've never been to the spring show. And to be honest with you, I was actually going to make 2024 a pass year for Austin in general because there's a couple other conventions, shop situations, more to come on that. There are other things in the hopper that I was going to kind of diversify my travel schedule this year when it comes to like record collecting and so forth. But with some gentle, and I mean gentle nudging from a couple folks in the community. Shout out to Louie Golden in particular, who was kind of working this one. Decided to make this more of a social thing than a really highly intensive, focused record collecting experience.
It's chicken. It's fried chicken. It's fried chicken. I like fried chicken.
And also, there was a little curiosity about how the spring show compares to the fall show. That said, had a really good time. There's so many videos out there recapping experiences of the show, and I know I'm a little late to the party. I've just had a lot going on, so all I'm going to really focus on is tell a couple stories from my experience that we didn't cover on Surface Noise on the live stream, and then also show you and talk about a couple of the records I was super excited to pick up. Because one of the things, if you go to a record convention, especially if you run into people you know, is, hey, what are you looking for? You try to carpool or pool your efforts to help each other find things and that sort of thing. At least, ideally, that's what you'd like to do. And, you know, the question I got asked a couple times is, what are you looking for? And where I'm at in my record collecting experience is I've knocked off most of those like high grails, but there are still several pieces that I'm really kind of hyper-focused on picking up at this time. And I'm proud to say, or happy to say, that I did pick up a couple of those, but we'll talk about those in a second. But to recap my experience, usually, up to this point, when I go into the fall show, I fly in the Wednesday before. Now, the layout of the show is there's early bird access on Friday, which you pay a little bit more for a ticket. It's $30. I think it used to be $25. So you get the vendors setting up on Friday, early bird, and you get like first dibs, first access to those vendors. Then Saturday from 8 to 10, so you get a 2-hour window at the very beginning of the day. You get more early bird access if there's some late arriving vendors. If there are vendors restocking their wares, which I learned in year one that happens. And then at 10 o'clock for $5 a piece, the herd of humanity comes in, and that's when the general public comes in. And then Sunday, which I generally don't stay for Sundays, they do another hour from 9 to 10, early bird again, and then 10 o'clock, here come all the people again. Sundays are notoriously known for like deal cutting because a lot of these vendors are coming from out of town and they don't really feel like messing around with things. So they're looking to wheel and deal. But like I said, I've never really spent a lot of time on Sundays. I think maybe the first year I stayed till Sunday and I felt like it was a little too long of a stay. But I was also by myself and, you know, just kind of killing time at that point. All that said, like I said, normally come in on Wednesday evenings. Thursdays I spend kind of hitting the local record stores, making the moves that way. This is a little different in the sense that I had a family commitment on that Wednesday, so I flew out pretty early Thursday morning. And then travel tip, if you're going to rent a car, which I was going to rent a car for a day, because our house that we rented, myself, Louie, Jazzbum, Chris, and Jose, was literally a block from the convention center. So that part was couldn't work out better, so I figured I didn't need a rental car. I'll rent a car for a day for the Thursday at the record stores, etc. But this is a traveler's tip, and I usually live this tip, but I think when I made the reservation, I just didn't read the fine print. But if you're going to rent a car and you're out of town, the last thing you need to do is use a facility that is off campus, off the grounds of the airport, etc., because I lost probably 2.5 hours messing, dicking around with trying to just get a rental car for one day.
Hated it.
Now, price was very good. I think it was less than $40, but for losing 2.5 hours, plus Jose was waiting at the bus stop because he rode the bus in from Monterey for a couple hours. So travel tip, if you can stick, I'm not saying stick with the name guys like Enterprise and Hertz and whatever, but just make sure there's not that fine print that you'll need to shuttle off-site. Anyway.
Thanks for the tip.
So once that was taken care of and rectified, and since I had a car for the day, the lay of the land was really simple. Hit the record stores. Jose likes to travel with some records from his label, Aurora Central Records, which, side note, I'm now the vice president of logistics and supply chain. It's kind of a joke, but not really. But Jose goes around, tries to sell some of his records from his label to the local shops. That's fine. I get to shop when he does it. And that's what we did in the fall. Works out well. Plus, since I had the car, figured it'd be good to meet up with Jason Rojas and go check out his compound a little just outside of Austin for some of his sampling work of doing A/B listening and whatever. So that's what I ended up doing that evening. Hit the record stores. I honestly did not buy a ton from the record stores. I don't know if it was just because I was in a different mindset since I wasn't like record focused and this was more of a social thing for me this go around. But the record stores, I might have bought just a couple pieces, I think less than 2 or 3, which is kind of wild, like check my temperature kind of situation. And then Jason met up with us, went to a couple more shops, and then decided to head out, get some dinner, and then head out to Jason's because traffic in Austin, particularly around that traffic time, terrible, rough, not fun.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
So anyway, then we spent Thursday evening just at Jason's house, just kicking it, doing some A/B stuff. He does some really great work in how he's actually play testing and checking sound and different mastering from different records. Jose was kid in a candy store, kept asking for a lot of different records. The ones that I remember, we A/B'd, I think, the first UK press of Dark Side of the Moon with the 30th anniversary, which Jose had traded me that evening. Another one, I think the Beach Boys Pet Sounds record, like the first U.S. press versus I think it's the 74 reissue, which is one I have, which I'm just going to let you know the 74 reissue, that's where it's at. And then a couple other ones. Jason was very generous in hosting, and it was a lot of fun. That said, we didn't get to meet up with the other VC travelers until the next day on Friday. And I'll just put a rose on this one. The social piece of it was great. I had a lot of fun connecting with everybody. Some people I'd already met, like Mazzy. Obviously, Jason and Jose I spent some time with last time, and you see him on our live stream on Surface Noise. But there are so many people I had met before: Jasmine, Chris, Louie. Well, Louie came out last year. I do remember that. Kimbo, my man from Seattle, super nice guy. Doesn't like do videos, but he's part of the community in different ways. Dr. Robert came out. Rob the Wax was there. Of course, David Bianco, who I've met. I guess this is the third time I met David on different travels and iterations. His friend Brad was there. So many people. Cindy Tencent, who lives there. So if I missed you, not intentional. I just don't want to keep rambling on and on. But everybody was super cool. Dillon from Noble Records came in. I'd met him before. He did the podcast at the beginning of the year with Matt Sands and Sam, the psych professor. So I think we even had lunch with them, with Dillon on Saturday. And then Paul, BarakaPDub. Man, I was stoked to meet Paul. Paul's from Houston. He's one of the smartest cats in the vinyl community. I can't say enough nice things about Paul, and he was as advertised, so I was happy to meet Paul.
I'm giving you names.
The other piece of this that I wasn't expecting, since I kind of went into it with a different mindset, was I was doing some networking for the podcast, and I met a lot of people and just talked casually with people who will probably be featured in the coming months in the podcast. Some interesting stories as collectors, as sellers, as buyers, and just had a lot of fun, particularly on Friday and Saturday. I had probably the most fun. And then, of course, there's the record component. So I would be remiss if I did all this blabbering. I did talk about the records. Let's get into it.
Oh, boy! Yeah!
So the first record I'm going to talk about, it's one of my early pickups on Friday Early Bird, and that is Eugene McDaniel's. This is, I think, 1970, 1969, 1970. Eugene McDaniel's Outlaw. Why Don't We Please reissued this a couple years ago. So if you're looking for a copy in that sense, not hard to find. Quick story on this one. So this is what this sounds like. It's kind of late 60s, early 70s kind of rock, little funk kind of elements to it. It's kind of cool music. What I would say about this on two levels is, one, it's a record I've been looking for. They had it at the fall show, a shop out of DC called Joint Custody. And that was the first place I stopped in the fall show, was their booth, and I saw it, and it was like $100. And I was like, do I really want to just throw $100 out the window right away? So I was like, if it's back when I do the rounds, I'll buy it. Needless to say, it was not back when I made the rounds. So I was kind of kicking myself. So when I saw a vendor early on that had this, I was real happy to pick this up. This is on the Atlantic label. Super fun. You've heard me talk about him before, but the man who's on pretty much every recording possible, Ron Carter, is on this, and on a couple tracks on bass. So really cool stuff. As always, if you're interested, check it out on Spotify or Streamer, Apple, whatever. But it's cool music. It's something that, again, not easy to find, particularly in this condition. You see a lot, hole punches, sockets, etc. So happy to have this one to the collection.
Ah, damn, I'm shitting gold these days.
So the next record that I picked up, and this one was kind of on my little pseudo list. Again, when people say, what are you looking for? I didn't really have a list, but I kind of have an understanding of things I'm looking for that I don't see in my local market or my regional travels. And this record is called Log. It's self-titled, Log by Log. Great name. I don't know what's going on with the glistening chest here, so don't ask me that in the comments. No clue. But it comes on the Salsa Soul label. This is a real fun one. This is kind of like, so this is 1981. This is the end of disco, but it still has a lot of disco and funk and boogie, was kind of the description I saw when I was learning about this months ago. And it's been sampled a couple times, like a lot of these kind of 70s R&B, soul, disco albums were. They're sampled in hip-hop. Madlib sampled this. St. Pepsi, if you're familiar with St. Pepsi's work. Not really a hip-hop person, but more of like, I don't call it new. I don't even know how to quantify it. I'm sure there's an actual label for it, but it's just kind of like chill, vaporwave, I think, ish type music. So they sampled elements of this. But this was Leroy Burgess's project. It must not have done so well because it's one of those albums lost to time. They've reissued this a couple times. I think Frederick, if you're watching, we had a little brief conversation about this, talking about the recent reissue campaign just a couple years ago. But this is an OG. Again, that Salsa Soul label, sweet as hell. This is a fun record. Like, it's kind of like the Don Blackman album that came out, I guess, this month for Vinyl Me Please, in the sense that it's just one of these albums that's lost to time, but man, it smokes. If you're in the right frame of mind and you got the right type of system that can really put on some muscle, this is a jammer to me. So I was happy to pick this up. Picked it up from Goner Records, a shop based out of Memphis who I'd been to before, so it was cool to just kind of check in with those guys. And again, early bird is where it's at when you want the rare of the rare.
Mike at the In-Group sells records.
Next record we're going to talk about is technically Jane's Addiction's first record. It's in 1987. This is actually like live recordings, so it's not their first studio album per se, but if you're being technical about it, this is their first album. They recorded, I think, a lot of it at the Roxy, if I'm not mistaken, and this came out before, I think, Nothing Shocking, 1988, which I think was their first studio album. I'm doing this all from memory, so check me in the comments below if I get a little of those details wrong, but I have never, ever, ever seen this, one, in this good condition, but I've never seen it in my local area at all. I figured eventually one of my record trips to California and LA in particular, I'd probably find one of these. I've got the other early Jane's albums on vinyl. Did not have this. And this is delightful. I mean, this is something that only can find at these big mass gatherings, these large record collection conventions, or things like this. The guy who actually was the vendor, he had a British accent, so I'm assuming he's a British guy. I don't think it was a big performance. But we talked a little bit about this, and he gave me a little hookup on price. So I appreciated that. He had some really cool stuff. If you know what I like to collect or what I really, my home base is, it's late 80s, early 90s, 2000s, alternative, rock, rap, hip hop, that sort of stuff that wasn't pressed, readily available on vinyl, as vinyl was kind of fading out. And this is right in that wheelhouse, talking about late 80s. And man, killer. I think one reviewer said that this album personified Jane's addiction, just bypassing puberty and going right into the coming of age period of their career. But anyway, happy to add this one. Sweet.
Oh, my sweet Jesus.
So this is the record when people are saying, what are you looking for? This is the only one that I really was consistently saying, if you see, this is Bob Seger back in 72. This is his 6th studio album that came out in, spoiler alert, 1972. This is the one I was looking for. I know Melina Murphy found a copy in Las Vegas recently. I was so jealous. But this is the one that I was hoping to leave Austin with. Clearly I did. Super psyched. This is probably known for, I guess the track most known for is the Turn to Page track, the studio version. The one that you usually hear more on radio and so forth is like a live version. But this is the studio version. And this is one of 3 albums of Bob Seger's early catalog that was never reissued on CD. So this one kind of, I think it's on streamers if I'm not mistaken, but in terms of collectability, very high. When I first got to the convention, I did see a vendor had a sealed copy for $350. I just wasn't going to play there. I think it was on Saturday. I did some more deep digging, and I found this copy for a fraction of that price. And patience pays off, because sometimes when you don't take that first bite of the apple, the next bite is bigger and tastes even better. And that's because I found a white label promo of this album. A little water damage to the sleeve, so obviously not very geeked about that. But I mean, this thing is literally 50 years old. So at this point, the fact that it's great condition, the vinyl, you play the vinyl, not the jackets, as some folks like to say. And man, to be able to leave with the record that I was probably, I wouldn't say most focused, but I was most attentive to trying to track down, and I got it at a good price. Aces all around.
That's enough of this George Drabble.
So those are like my prime cuts, but here's a quick flip video to recap everything I picked up. And I got some real cool stuff I didn't get to talk about in this video. I just want to be more focused, so check it out. And that's it, buddies. Had a great time once again at the Austin Record Convention. I got to hit Torchy's Tacos not once but twice. Got to spend time with some really great people in the community. No drama. I know going into the convention there were some worries of some nonsense and chicanery and so forth, and everybody acted like adults. It was great. There was no nonsense. Mazzy, tell us what you're ordering right now.
What?
I had a lot of fun with everybody. Hopefully they had fun with me.
Shut up, Boomer.
Appreciate you, buddies, checking this video out. All your support, all the kind words, social media, podcast, all that stuff. It's awesome. It means the world. It's the reason I keep doing this. And it's the reason I like to share my vinyl collecting journey with you. So tell me in the comments below what you think about these pickups. Do you guys have any of these pickups? What do you think? Did I screw the proverbial pooch, so to say? Because I didn't really focus on like cheap filler. I focus on quality over quantity, which has kind of been my approach the last 18 months of my collection in general. So I had a good time. The social piece was great. The record collecting piece was great. The food was pretty good. All in all, a lot of fun. But until next time, buddies, when you're at your local record show, your local record shop, or wherever you get records, when you get the chance, just spin it. See you soon.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
Well, we out of time.